The news of the South African rand being manipulated between 2007 and 2013 truly took a lot of the nation's people by surprise, and everyone is seeking for answers and accountability. But let me tell you the truth. There is no accountability because this is nothing out of the ordinary. Honestly, I would be surprised if the rand isn't still being heavily manipulated to this day. But you see, this whole thing is nothing new, nor is it even surprising to me. The global foreign exchange market is like a car that drives various economies all over the world. After all, our world does revolve around exchanging goods and services using various currencies all over the world. And these currencies derive their values from the foreign exchange market. Your nation's currency can either rise or it can die, mostly due to speculation in the foreign exchange market. The Forex market or the foreign exchange market is the biggest market in the entire world. Trillions, and I mean trillions of dollars are traded every 24 hours. And would you believe me if I told you that of those trillions of dollars, only a few banks in the world have a share of more than 50% of this market? It's quite ludicrous to even think about. These handful of institutions are the ones that can decide whether your country's economy lives or crashes, because all of you should know that if in the foreign exchange market your country's currency drops hard, then your nation will enter a very, very serious crisis very quickly. These are the results of this American British system of the world that we live in. Just take a look at what happens as the value of oil rises. Petrol prices skyrocket. Food prices have been flying off the rails. I don't even remember when last did bread only cost around 10 rands. When Albany bread cost around 10 rands. Anyway, some of you are wondering who are these few banks that have more than 50% market share of such an important and crucial market. These banking institutions are JP Morgan Chase, UBS, Deutsche Bank, Citibank, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, State Street, HSBC. You can also throw in banks like Barclays Bank and the Royal Bank of Scotland as well on that list. We are talking about gigantic institutions in the banking sector. Global currency exchange has been fueled by big banking institutions for decades now. When I see Julius Malema calling for such titanic institutions to be held accountable, it just seems weird to me and kind of laughable as well, because from my small knowledge about the world of investing, I know for certain that these big banks cover their tracks so well that there is no way of you to actually find damning evidence of them doing anything illegal, most especially insider trading. These big banks have been manipulating the global currency exchange market for a long time. They are experienced and deeply connected to global politics. They can get away with almost anything. Do you think these big banking institutions will be held accountable for doing anything illegal whilst manipulating the South African rand currency when they literally got away with crashing the United States economy so many times? Well, I know someone is asking, what the hell are you talking about? When did big banking or financial institutions crash the US economy? Well, remember the 2008 financial crisis? That was 100% caused by big banking institutions, whether indirectly and also directly. Yes, I know most of you will say recessions happen because the governments of nations and things such as inflation and other geopolitics, but at the end of the day, let me ask you this. Who places those large orders trading against your country's currency when even a small hint of weakness in the economy shows up? That's right, those big banks that are hidden in the shadows behind politicians. Politicians take all the blows for recessions and economies crashing, but the truth is that every economic crash is engineered by some trader with big pockets to splash, namely JP Morgan Chase. There is a lot of money to be made when betting against a failing economy. It's just simple mathematics. Many have done this kind of legally yet shady business before. You also have George Soros, who completely devastated the UK economy by betting against it, and he made over £1 billion from that bet. So when I hear Julius Malema say these banks must be held accountable, it's just nearly impossible for something like that to happen. Look now, nje bruh, it's been only a few days. Besides myself, who else is still talking about this matter? People have already forgotten and moved on. Who will hold these big banking institutions accountable for legally selling off our economy to ruin? Instead of focusing on big banks, how about we focus on fixing this energy crisis and telling these idiotic people to stop voting for the ANC and give someone else a chance to fix these problems? This banking matter is the duty of the South African Reserve Bank and the ruling party. There should be policies being placed to improve the state of the economy, and providing more employment to the public. Then the rand will start to stabilize because a healthy economy will lead to a healthy currency. But obviously, I'm speaking from my narrow knowledge and my narrow view. The interbank market is quite fascinating. If you watched Billions, then you have heard of something called insider trading. I'm probably gonna show you guys the meaning of insider trading right here. You know that scene where Bobby Axelrod has information about major flaws in a company or its CEO, then he sells off the company's shares just before all the bad news actually breaks out and causes the stock price to tank all the way down. I know some of you think I'm speaking Greek, but these are simple terms, guys. Basically, what actually happens, what moves the stock market, or what causes these big banks to sell off your company shares, it's based on news about the CEO, about the people in charge, about the workplace, or even anything about the company that may be damning about the company, right? But usually that happens once the news has broken out. But insider trading is having that damning information basically before it actually becomes public, and actually trading before the news actually breaks out. That's insider trading, basically having insider information. It's been alleged that a number of banks actually did some form of collaboration in messing around with the rand and mostly selling off its value against other major currencies years ago. But I strongly believe this still happens to this day. And it definitely happened after COVID, and it got worse the moment South Africa kept refusing to join the United States side, instead chose to join sides with China and Russia. In this world of ours, siding against the United States' global political views can be quite suicidal for a country's future. Just take a look at what happened to Libya when Gaddafi tried to go against the global banking system. He wanted to create a single gold-backed currency for the entirety of our African continent. This is the main reason that most of you don't know actually got Gaddafi into some serious hot water. The banking elite who control the world do not mess around when it comes to the strength of currencies like the US dollar, the pound, and the euro. You just don't challenge the system until you have a very solid footing in the world. Titans like China, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Russia literally have to create a faction in order to go against the US dollar strength and the banking system being controlled by those hiding behind these banking powerhouses who dictate global foreign exchange at large. Gaddafi is the best lesson as to what happens when you try to go against the banking system. Goldman Sachs, Rothschild, JP Morgan Chase, Royal Bank of Scotland, Bank of America, and all other few powerhouses indirectly dictate the life and death of many global economies. You can add BlackRock there just for control. I know what I'm saying might not make sense to many of you, but yes, it's my own speculations after all. These are all public allegations scattered all over the internet, so you can take it with a pinch of salt. So are you seriously telling me that the South African rand isn't being sold off still to this day? I can guarantee you that our country's currency is still being sold off and is still being traded to this day, and this is the reason why you see the rand slowly but gradually losing value against most of the major currencies. And if you ask the reasoning behind why the rand usually becomes this erratic and usually starts losing value in this kind of manner, they will tell you it's because of xenophobia, they will tell you it's because of load shedding, they'll tell you it's because the government is incompetent. Like, there's always reasons as to why they're selling off the country's currency. And it's quite fascinating to me. It's really, really extraordinary because the ruling party can actually fix these kind of things. They can actually put measures to protect the country from being sold off. Basically, they can protect the country from short selling. As we said before, putting policies in place that create improvement in the state of the economy, creating employment for the country, creating employment, negotiating with these big banks, sitting down with those banks, telling them what do you want to see from the economy, what do you want, what changes and improvements do you want to see, right? How can we actually fix the situation of the currency? How can we stabilize the currency? Like when they negotiate with these companies, the way the United States actually negotiated with JP Morgan, the person himself, right? There's a time where the government literally called JP Morgan and asked him how they can actually improve the economy, protect the economy and stuff like that. And JP Morgan actually locked everyone inside the room, the bank, people in the banking sector. And they came to an agreement that actually benefited the United States government itself. I'm sure some of you know this story. It's one of the most famous stories about JP Morgan, right? Times when he opened JP Morgan Chase. These are quite fascinating stories. But anyway, that's it for this specific video. And hopefully they will actually fix this load shedding matter, because load shedding has been becoming way, way, way worse in nowadays. Now we even get blackouts. Like right now, if I'm recording right now, I'm wondering what if electricity can just go right now and they'll tell us it's a transformer. They'll say, hey, this has burned. Oh, this has been broken. Oh, something has tripped. That's the reason. They always use the same reasons all the time. So why not just take city power and put it back under ESCOM and just end things there?